Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we dive into the ping family of commands used for network discovery and diagnostics. We will start first with the basics and move towards more advanced options so that by the end of the video you will have hands-on experience with ping, fping, nping and the hping3. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that all the demonstrations in this video are conducted in a controlled, isolated environment using virtual machines. The tools and techniques shown here are intended for educational purposes only, to help you understand network scanning and security testing within a legally authorized lab setup. Unauthorized scanning or testing against real-world systems, corporate networks, or public infrastructure without explicit permission is illegal and could lead to serious legal consequences. I take no responsibility for any misuse of this information. Please ensure that you only practice in a safe environment, such as a home lab, test network, or ethical hacking sandbox. If you are a cybersecurity professional, always follow proper authorization protocols before conducting any network assessments. Now with that said, let's get our Kali Linux terminal ready and start testing some commands. Let's start with the simplest form of ping. The ping command is one of the most basic and useful tools to check if a machine is online. It works by sending an ICMP Internet Control Message Protocol Echo Request, and if the target responds, it sends back an ICMP Echo Reply. Let's try on the terminal the very basic ping command. So what I'll do first, I'll ping the target, which has the IP 192.168.162.129. This ping command will keep going indefinitely until I hit Ctrl+C to stop sending packets. Each line represents a response from the target, so let's break it down. ICMP sequence, here we can see the sequence number of each request. That's why you see 1, 2, 3, 4. We did send 7 packets using this command, so you can see the ICMP sequence number. Time to live, 64, which shows how many hops the packet took to reach the destination. And then we see the response time, which is in milliseconds. So this is the response time from the target in milliseconds. All right, that's the simplest way to use the ping. But what if we don't want it to run indefinitely? So here where I'll try a new command or adding more options. But before that, I will clear so we can start on top. Let's say we only want to send 5 packets. Simply, I need to add the -c option. So in this case, I'll do ping, and then I'll add to it -c, and then followed by the number of packets I want to send. -c5, that means this ping command will send only 5 packets to the target that ends with .129. And here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It did send 5 packets only. And you can see here that 0% packet loss. That means the destination is reachable. Received successfully the 5 out of 5 packets that were transmitted. And now it stops automatically after 5 packets, like you say. It's simple, right? Let's try something else now. What if I want to send larger packets to see how the network handles them? I will add this time the -s option. In that case, what I'll do, ping, and then -s, and then I'll specify 128. In this case, I'll explain this shortly, and then the target IP address. What this will do, this increases the packet size from the default 56 bytes to 128 bytes. So by default, the ping, if you don't use the -s, followed by the number of bytes you want to send, the default is 56 bytes. However, now by using the -s, I did specify that I want to send in each packet, or the packet size I'm sending is 128 bytes. This is useful for testing the network performance. Let's see that in action. It will keep going or running indefinitely. I need to do Ctrl+C to stop this. All right, so I did send 6 packets, or maybe actually 7, and here if you can see 128, this is the packet size by specifying the -s and the size of the packet. One last cool trick, but first I need to clear as always. Let's do one more last trick, which is the ping. Now I'll use the -f, 192, the IP address of the target. The question is, what if I want to flood the target with pings? And this is usually used for stress testing. I'll be using the -f flag. But what you need to do here, you need to be careful with this. All right, let's talk about float pinging. In some versions of Cal Linux, if we try ping-f, let's actually try this so we can see which if this version supports the -f or it doesn't. All right, what it says, minimal interval for user must be greater than 2 milliseconds. We need to use the -i. So what I need to do in my command, simply I need to do ping and then -f. I need to set the interval. Here where it comes the -i 0.002. So I'm setting this to the minimum of 2 milliseconds as it asked me to, and then the target IP address. So this sets the interval to 2 milliseconds, and this will allow this command to work in this version of Linux. If we want to go even faster, we need to use the root using sudo. Let's try without sudo to see if that works. You can see now it's pinging. See the blinking dots here. So that's an indication that it's sending packets indefinitely every 2 milliseconds. So now if I do Ctrl+C to our port, we realize that we have sent 6,475 packets, which all were received by the target. So it's performing well, no issues. What I'll try to change that from the minimum 2 milliseconds to even less than that. So what I'll do, I'll bring up the same command, but this time I'll try to do, let's say 0001. So what I'm trying to do here, I'll be sending pings as fast as possible. Again, I'm doing stress testing. So remember, don't use this on public networks. This is only for stress testing. You do it in a controlled or isolated environment. So now if I hit enter, I might get it to work, maybe not. The error message here, all right, I can tell from experience, I need sudo. I need root privileges to be able to run this command. That's why I'll add sudo at the start. And then you can see the blinking dots here because it's sending packets as fast as possible. Again, this is for stress testing, to test how the target responds to this number of packets. This can be used in the wrong hands for flooded tags, so that's why we encourage you to use this only for stress testing in a controlled environment. I'll hit Ctrl+C just to abort this, and then you can see the number of packets that have been sent, 43,224, transmitted, the same number is received, nothing is lost, so that's a good indication of the target performance. Now ping is great, but it only checks one host at a time. What if you want to scan an entire subnet to find all the online devices? That's where the fping comes in. Let's scan a single target first to see how it works. So fping and then the target IP address, and here we go. If the target is online, we'll get a simple response that the target is alive, as you see. I want to try another target. Let's try the 130, and then it takes some time to check the target if reachable or not, and then the target is unreachable. So that's another example where the target is unreachable. Now the question, where is the power of fping? The real power is that fping can scan multiple targets at the same time. Watch this. If I do fping 129 and then I put another target, the 130, so that's the power of the fping, that you can scan multiple targets at the same time. Let's hit enter and see. So the 129 is alive, and then I'm scanning the 130, which is unreachable. That's the difference between fping and ping. Unlike ping, which waits for one reply at a time, fping scans them all simultaneously. So fping can scan multiple targets at the same time. Now let's go a step further. Let's scan an entire subnet. And here also the power of the fping. You can scan an entire subnet to discover all the live hosts. So if I do fping, and here I need to add the -g option, which generates a list of IPs in the given range, and then I'll provide the range. So now the range I'm providing here is from the .125 to the .129. So you can scan an entire subnet. So you can put the range you want. to scan that subnet, and the dash G will generate a list of all the IPs in that given range. Let's hit enter and see what we get. So 128 is alive, 129 is alive, and then it did scan for the remaining ones. And here it's showing the 125, 126, 127 are not reachable in this subnet. So I did scan the subnet from 125 to 129. I did find 2 hosts which are alive, and there are 3 which are unreachable. Now we have quick way to find all the devices in our network. Super useful in penetration testing, isn't it? Alright, next up is nping. This tool is part of the Nmap Suite. It gives us a lot more control over our ping scans. Let's start with the basic nping test to an IP address. This needs root privilege, so I'll do sudo first and then the nping and the target IP address. Let's have a look. So in this scenario, it works like a ping. But if you look closely, the output is different. It provides more details or more detailed information in the output about the packet sent and received. So we know it's using the ICMP Internet Control Message Protocol. That's what we know as Echo Requests, and here it's showing the type. So the Echo Request is type 8, and then we get Echo Reply, which is type 0. It's a detailed output compared to the ping command. But remember, we are using the simplest form of the nping. We haven't really discovered yet the power of the ping or the nping command. But here is the cool part. Let me first clear so we can start on top again, and let's see how the nping doesn't just use ICMP like the ping and the fping commands. It can also send TCP and UDP pings. Let's try TCP ping on port 80. So all I need to do, again, sudo root privilege and then nping, this is the command, and then what I will add to it, --TCP. And then the port, I'm scanning port 80, followed by the target IP address, which is 192.168.162.129. So what I'm doing here, I'm doing a TCP scan. So by adding the --TCP, I'm using TCP SYN packets instead of ICMP, and I'm targeting here only port 80 HTTP. If port 80 is open, we'll get a SYN-ACK response. Because I'm sending a SYN packet, I should receive a SYN-ACK if the port 80 is open, and here we go. So I'm sending the packets, it's running. What did I say? Let's say, so I'm sending a SYN, I'm receiving what? SYN-ACK. SYN-ACK means that port 80 is open. If the port is closed, what we should receive here, RA for reset. Let's try this with another port and see how we get reset. But let's first clear so I can start on top again. I'll get the same command, but this time I'm not scanning port 80. I'll scan, let's say, port 443. And now if I scan this port, let's see what will be the response. The response is RA. So I'm getting a reset. Response, reset acknowledged. So that indicates that the port 443 is closed. This is the stealthier way to detect live hosts, especially when ICMP is blocked. Now let us move on to hping3, which is the most powerful tool in the ping family. Unlike the others, hping3 lets us craft custom packets and even bypass firewalls. Let's start simple, sending an ICMP ping like the ping command. So first I need to start with sudo for admin. I need to start first by sudo for root privileges, and then hping3, this is my command that I want to use, and then I'll add -1. I'll be talking about this shortly, followed by the target IP address. This is the simplest form of hping3. I'm using it as the standard ping command, and that's where the -1 comes to play. So the -1 uses the ICMP mode, like normal ping. So if I hit enter, it's like I'm doing a normal ping. You see the sequence number, you see it's sending few packets. I need to do Ctrl+C just to stop this. So that's like doing a normal ping. So no need for hping3 really to do that, but we're just introducing its simplest form. But where is really hping3 really shines is in TCP scanning. So the first thing to learn about the hping3 that we can do what TCP scanning, and here where I need to do sudo and then hping3 This is my command, and this time I'll do dash uppercase S followed by the IP address of the target, and then I will be here specific by specifying port 80, so I'm scanning only HTTP, and I'm limiting the number of packets to 3 packets only in this scan. The dash S here in this scenario sends a SYN request, a TCP SYN request. The dash P80, that's targeting port 80 as I said, and sending only 3 packets. Before we hit enter and see the output, I'll give you some insights. If the port is open, if I'm sending a SYN packet, I should receive a SYN ACK response. If it's closed, then we get a reset response, an RA. This is how attackers check for open ports on the system. So let's hit enter and see the output. So I'm sending a SYN. What I got as a response, SYN ACK, SYN ACK, SYN ACK. What that means that the port is open. But if we got RA, that means the port is closed. Let's clear and do something more powerful. So let's try stealth scan using the Christmas scan, for example, which Christmas scans means we'll be setting multiple TCP flags, the fin, the push, and the urge all together. So to do this, again, sudo, and then I'll do hping3, and this time I'll use, instead of dash s, I'll use dash x. Dash x, or you can do dash fpu. I'm just sending what? Multiple TCP flags. I'm setting multiple flags, the fin, the push, and the urge all together against the same target. I'm targeting this time the port 80. Still, it should be port 80 for HTTP, and I'm sending 2 packets. The response here, open ports do not respond. So open ports do not respond. This is a stealth technique. If the ports are closed, they will return a reset ACK, RST ACK. Let's have a look. I did a scan. I didn't get any reply. So getting no reply here in this scenario is really good, because that's an indication that the ports are open. So the port 80 is open. Why? How did I know? Because I didn't receive a response. Let's try with a different port, and this time I will do the port 20, and then I'll do enter. I got RA. So RA, if you get a reset, acknowledge a flag as a response, that means the port is closed. If you get no response, then the port is open. That's when we set multiple flags, and to be specific, these are the fin, push, and urge flags. And we can replace FPU by just X, referring to one of the attacks or scans called Christmas scan. This method is really useful and often used to evade firewalls, as some security systems don't log Christmas scans. That's why we try to evade firewalls in our scanning to test how much powerful are the security controls we have in place. If we can do it, that means the attackers can do it, and that's the main purpose why we do such tests. Now if I clear, so I can start on top again, let's try TCP SYN scan with custom source port. So what I'll do here in this case, again, remember we need sudo for running these commands, hping3, and then the target 192.168.162.129. That's my target. And then here I'll do dash s uppercase. I did underscore instead, dash s uppercase. This is for a SYN scan. And then the lowercase s, here I'm specifying the source port. I'm using the port 44567 -P. The destination port is the HTTP port 80. So this command simply, in a nutshell, will perform a SYN scan on port 80, but instead of using a random source port, we manually set it to 44567. The output, if the port is open, the target replies with the SYN ACK. If the port is closed, the target replies with the reset. If firewall, there will be no response. So that's why we try different options. If there is a firewall preventing these packets to reach the target, then you will get no response. So this gives you an insight about the architecture, the network architecture at the target end. This indication that there is a firewall. By using custom source port, we can sometimes bypass firewall rules, as some systems filter common ports but allow unknown ones. Let's have it go. So I'm getting a SYN ACK. That means the port is open. What about we try now the hping3, but this time we'll do scanning, TCP scanning for a range of ports. So let me first clear and start up again so you can see the screen. And let's do a hping3, but this time for a range of ports. So I'll do sudo, and then the command is hping3, and then the target is 192.168. Oops, I did type it .162.129, and then here I'll use -8. This is the scanning mode. So I'm enabling the scan mode so I can scan a range of ports, and here the range of ports I want to scan from 20 to 25, and then I'll add this time the -V, uppercase V. This enables the verbose mode showing responses clearly. So now here you have a look what we have. We did scan for ports 20 to 25. We got RA for ports 20 and 24. That's a reset. That means they are closed. And we didn't get any response from ports 21, 22, 23, and 25. So open ports do not respond. So if you get no response from a port, that means this port is open. So in this case, 21, 22, 3, and 5, these are open ports because we didn't get any response. Closed ports, they will send a reset packet or RA. Let's try a SYN scan for a port range to see how powerful it gets. So let's clear first so we can start on top. And then I'll use the same command, hping, but this time what I will change is instead of, actually not, I'll just add the -S. So I'm doing a SYN scan, sending a SYN packet to the target machine, and let's have a look what the output looks like. So this is similar to the previous scan, but using SYN packets instead of default TCP packets. This what makes it really stealthier scan. So the -S will send the SYN packets. I'm scanning, that's why -8, that's the scanning mode. And then I'm scanning ports 20 to 25, verbose, so we can get a detailed output. So the open ports here in this case will respond with the SYN-ACK. So SYN-ACK, that means these ports are open, 21, 22, 23, and the SMTP SYN-ACK. If the port is closed, you will get a reset, an RA response, and the ports that do not respond, that means they are sitting behind the firewall. Using -S makes this a more effective scan for checking open services while staying under the radar. Now I'll simulate how to do a SYN flood attack simulation using the hping3. But before I do that, I'll just initiate on another terminal FTP connection with the target. And to do this, I'll do FTP with the target IP address. And then it will ask me for credentials, msfadmin, that's the username for the target machine. And then the password for the target machine. And then you notice that we got the login successful. So I have now FTP session with the target, and this happened in reasonable time frame. And now I will show you how to do the hping3 to flood the target with packets, so the FTP will slow down or maybe crash. So now on the attack box, what I run the hping3 command. I need the sudo for admin privileges. Hping3 is still the command. That's the target IP address. This time the -C, I'm sending 10,000 packets instead of sending only few, because I'm not troubleshooting, I'm trying to flood the target. And each packet, that's the -D 120, contains 120 bytes of data. I'm sending a SYN scan or SYN packets. The window size is 64. The window size of 64 bytes, this means that the receiver expects acknowledgement every 64 bytes of data. Larger window size usually allows for faster data transfer, as it reduces the number of acknowledgements needed. The smaller the window size, this will result in more frequent acknowledgements, which can slow down the connection, and that's the intention here. The -P21, I'm targeting port 21 FTP. --float, this sends packets as fast as possible, floating the target, and the rand source that spoofs the random source IP. If the target is vulnerable, FTP will slow down or crash. If the system has protections, packets might be dropped. So let's have a go. So what I will do first, on the other terminal, I'll clear so we can try the FTP session after running the command. So now I'll try with 10,000 packets. I'll run this and then I'll try to initiate the FTP session. And here you can see that it's taking longer time than it did before, because we are flooding the target with those 10,000 packets, and now it's showing that it's connected and still will ask me for the credentials to authenticate. So this really serves the purpose. So we did slow down the FTP, and if we add the more packets, we make the 10,000 into million or 10 million, this might crash the FTP. Alright, we have covered a lot in this video. We started with ping, moved to fping for multiple host discovery, explored nping for advanced pings, and finally used hping3 for stealth scanning and firewall evasion. These tools are essential in penetration testing and network diagnostics. Play around with them in your Cal Linux lab, and in the next video we'll take things further with Nmap scanning. Don't forget to subscribe for more hands-on cybersecurity tutorials. See you in the next video.